Welcome back to College Football Addiction. Blake Ruffino, AYS Sports, and the Ruffino and Joe Show. Blake, how you doing today, bud?
Doing good. Good day. Just trying to think of what the college football version of the Luka Doncic trade would be. That's kind of my the thing that I'm trying to put together. I think for me as a young man, it's got to be when I was a senior in high school and Saban came back to college football in Alabama, right? So TJ, think about this. uh, one of my best friends who comes on my show all the time, Brandon Taylor, who's actually a radio host for LSU football. We grew up together, played high school football together, literally ate lunch our senior year together. We would leave school and go eat lunch together every single day. Saban was recruiting his brother and then brought his brother in. And then when Saban came back, that whole he was a god to us. And then I'm thinking the only thing that the Luka Doncic trade is the only thing that I personally have been through would be the Nick Saban coming back. I almost wanted to vomit, and then for the next 17 and a half years, he made me vomit
Yeah, you actually
multiple
did.
times. So it's so crazy how college sports changes, and then you got all those coaching moves yesterday in college football that were fantastic. So always moving stuff. We talked about this yesterday for Ruffino and Joe show. Never a dull moment, man. I don't. People talk about an off season to me, and I'm like, at what single? We're in February, and we're talking about big moves being made. I get what people are saying, but man, TJ, I mean, this is my notes for this morning. I mean, like a whole page worth of stuff that we got to go through, and it's great problem to have, but it's a lot going into the 2025 season. So it's been a lot early in this 2025 year so far.
Yeah, February 2nd, we get news of the national championship winning offensive coordinator taking a $6 million coordinator role in the NFL. That is, I was talking with Ali about it last night, and I was just like NFL coaches, just like 10 years ago, $6 million for a coordinator. And it's not slowing down. It doesn't feel like it's going to stop anywhere. But
we'll complain about NIL in the portal, though.
And then look at these coaches.
These damn kids are ruining the game.
Yeah,
Jim Knowles, right?
Yeah. Same.
Come on, dude. I mean, they're just learning from you,
bro. They're the same, man. Y'all are all the same,
right? Absolutely.
All right, on coaches. I've got a hot take, and maybe it's not a hot take, but I think you'll probably agree. Brian Kelly is the third best coach in the SEC. True or false?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, clearly Kirby. I mean, maybe who would you put to Sark?
Yeah, there's a lot of recency bias in that for sure.
Yeah.
So if you're looking totality of career, I'd maybe have Kelly, but last 5 years, I'd probably.
No, you can't ignore Sark's. I mean, TJ, he's going to the. I mean, I said this during the national championship. I mean, the game between Texas and Ohio State. I tweeted this out. I'm like, that's the national championship game to me.
Yeah.
That was
better than anybody.
Right. I mean, they were the closest from a talent perspective, from a coaching perspective. No, Texas is rolling. I think that's fair, right? I think that's fair because if Kelly goes 8-4, 9-3 again, then yeah, I mean, you have to have those questions. I think that's about fair right now, considering the last 3 years. But a big year, a lot of pressure being put on Brian Kelly and the staff right now, based off all the moves they made in the portal and based off all the moves that they've made on this coaching staff. But yeah, I think 3 would be very fair.
Yeah, and you can have arguments here and there, but I just think when you look overall, you'd have him there. But that plays. I mean, you just mentioned it. Returning with, I mean, on FanDuel right now, Nuss has the best odds to win the Heisman.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, right? You're never going to turn that down, but rat poison's a real thing, and so it does feel like the expect.
He's got to get to work. He's got a lot that he's got to overcome. He better stop turning the ball over if he wants to be there. I mean, look, you can have him on top of your odds. And TJ, LSU fans get pissed off at me, and I don't give two Rudy Poos. You turn the ball over 20 times again and see what happens. You're going to get your ass whooped now. So, I mean, there's a lot that they got to overcome. I don't want to hear no preseason hype about bull. You better go out there and start performing now.
And it starts early. We'll talk about the schedule in a minute, but it very much starts early with two huge games in September.
Yeah.
If they okay, so I'm not trying to. This is not trying to be a hot take. This is not trying to like paint a picture. But there were some fans getting somewhat frustrated last year. If they were to go 8-4 again, 9-3, and just get barely left out, is I mean 9-3 is. I mean, I think it would be tough to move on in that moment. But at the same time, the expectations would have been so high, not just this year, but back in 2023. And I think if you're LSU, right, you don't want to get into a Richt situation at UGA, who was super successful. I'm not trying to dog Mark Richt or anything like that. But like that, to me, the worst case scenario, like if they go 7-5, easy, right? I'm not saying it's fire, but like 7-5, easier decision. 9-3, just barely missing the playoff, finishing 12th, but the G5 team gets in over you is a tough situation because is that really a fireable offense? I don't think so. But at the same time, how many times can you just do that? And Rick was held on to so long at Georgia, and he's become the classic example. So I'm not trying to pile on him because he was originally at Florida. So I love Mark Richt, but that's where I think things get tough for LSU.
Yeah, I mean, look, and then considering, not considering, I don't even know, that's not even a word. Considering all the money that you've spent in the portal, considering all the money that you spent on the staff, either hiring or firing, and then the big thing too is like, hey man, you had the offensive rookie of the year in the NFL along with the two of the 7 rookies from a wide receiver room who were top 7 in receiving yards. By the way, Malik Neighbors did not have a quarterback. He had a tomato can, a thing of toothpaste, and a toothbrush, and at quarterback, and he still had over 1,000 yards. So I think it won't be just one thing, right? Like it will be a culmination of things. Now, you know, SEC non-fans will hear me say this and say he's biased. I don't think that there's any question in my mind that like Ole Miss, South Carolina, or Alabama, Illinois, which I will throw Illinois in that mix too. I don't think that those 4 teams were worse than the 2 playoff teams that Arizona State and Boise State that got in, or SMU, like
or Indiana.
Or Indiana.
I can be honest about that. I can say deserving versus best, but yeah, all those teams beat them.
Right. Like, I mean, and then people are like, well, Illinois beat South Carolina. Big dog. They had a 4-string running back as their slot receiver. They had both safeties that opted out at halftime. Like, you can look at bowl games and say whatever. So, to bring it back to LSU, does the playoff change? Does a 9-3 team get in? TJ, I don't think that it matters. I think what happens is LSU's just got to get in. Everybody stays if you just get in, right? Like, meaning you just got to get into the playoff. Because then you will have the growth of, all right, well, okay, you had some slip-ups here and there, but you had the growth. But I think fans, for what it's worth, TJ, they want to run here. Yeah. And quite frankly, they expect a run. They should have a run. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, look, you have the number 1 portal class. You brought in Alex Atkins, Lance Guidry to your staff. You brought in a lot of defensive staff from a year ago that you spent a lot of money on. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this transpires. But the good thing is, I think from an Ole Miss perspective, people look at what LSU did and says, oh, well, look at Ole Miss last year. But LSU was recruited so well through high school that it's a little bit different. So if you're talking about what is the expectation on February the 2nd, February the 3rd, for LSU football going into 2025, you better make that playoff, man. I mean, like, no one's hiding from that. Your own head coach went to a podium and said, see you at the national championship game. You can't say that here. Because, listen, people say a lot of things about LSU, but I'm just going to be realistic here. Bama, Ohio State, LSU. Those are the teams that have run college football since 2000. Regardless of what you want to say, Ohio State and LSU have 3 national titles and Bama has 6. So basically, when you're looking at it, the likelihood of those 3 teams winning a national title, TJ, is highly likely. That is where you've been. So you better make that playoff. This fan base they'll find money. Everybody talking about Louisiana guy ain't gonna find money. I ain't trying to get political here, but I know a lot of my buddies work in the oil field, and things starting to get a little bit different around here. People gonna find that money now, okay? So I'm just saying, there's a lot of pressure going into. And by the way, we start a month from today. A month from today, LSU gets on that practice field for spring football. So I mean, we're here. We got a lot to discuss. We got a lot of things we got to figure out. But it starts now, and that run to a playoff of the 12 teams.